Good evening, everybody. It's time for more CALLOUS Draft League Finals. As you know, it is green against purple. We are wrapping up the final individual draft of the tournament here, and then we will move over to the team drafts, which at the time of this recording, one of them is done and one of them is not, but generally speaking, and understandably, the team drafts do take a little bit longer than the individual drafts to complete. So, today, another good matchup. The teams seem to have, generally speaking, put their stronger players in the individual draft and I guess for lack of a better term, weaker players in the team draft for the most part. The big exception I think that jumps out is that Blues is in the team draft, but that strategy by and large makes sense in my opinion because some people view this as the more skill-intensive format, and crucially, it is best of three rather than best of one. So you could stick one of your weaker players in the team draft format. They only have to play and win one game to win the match, and that's obviously a lot easier than winning a best of three, especially in a very nuanced, skill-intensive, lot going on format where it's very, very easy to make mistakes, and people can and do outdraft, outbuild, outplay lesser opponents. Regardless, this is an individual draft between two strong players who have both had a good tour. It is the team captain on the left-hand side for the green team, Ab Reaction or Dancing Along, either or. He goes by both. And then we've got Rager88, our player 2 on the right-hand side, representing the purple team. So let's get into the draft. This is, no matter what happens, the final individual draft of the tour, because even if finals were to go to a tiebreaker, it would simply be a 3v3 team draft, winner takes all. So this is the very, very last individual draft for at least a little while. I hope you guys enjoy it. The bands are Skarmory, Kate, Raikou from Rager88. Not a mon that is normally banned these days, and automatically that tells me that there's going to be some strong stuff available that is not normally available, but from player 2's seat, you're probably okay with that. Metagross coming, but interestingly, he does not ban Tyranitar here, which is what I would think the obvious thing is. He's going to go for Gengar, so these bans are all fine. Maybe the Raikou is the one that stands out to me the most, is a little bit weird. Usually with meta ban, Tar also gets banned, because now it's obviously just going to be a very quick first pick Tar for Dancing Along, which of course is what he's going to do. But Rager had the option of not allowing that by simply taking the Gengar, or not taking the Gengar, taking the Tar, and, well, he went with the Gar. So obviously he's got a plan. Let's see why he's comfortable letting the T-Tar through. He's going to respond with Celebi and Lax. Certainly two of the better Mons in the format, and it is a Mon and one of its best counters, so I still don't know that you need to let Tar through, but I guess the thought process is if you don't let Tar through, there's a very reasonable chance that your opponent takes one of these Pokemon, Celebi or Lax, and you can't get both. So if it's really, really important to him to get both of those, then I guess letting Tar through is a pretty damn sure way of doing that, because obviously Dancing Along is always going to take Tar in that position. So yeah, if Celebi and Lax were what you wanted, there you go. You're successful. You've got them. A lot of powerful stuff remaining here, so let's see how they proceed. We're going to go with Aerodactyl and Blissey. I think these are probably the exactly correct picks. The Aerodactyl is going to give the double rock attacker combo that is so deadly in this, and it's going to make the whole draft evolve into cutting off rock resist versus over prioritizing rock resist. We very well may see the Dawn fans and the Flygons and those kind of pokes, Steelix, because yeah, Rager's going to need as many rock resists as he can get. And then I think taking the Bliss here is really important as well. Celebi and Snorlax, two of the better special walls, already out of the pool. You don't want to get choked out of those really early on. So I think Blissey is very, very wise. And then I would expect that Regice is going to go in the first round as well. There's also Registeel, so we're not totally out of walls yet, but in the meantime, they both have at least a couple of special walls, 1 and 2 respectively. So this has been a very, very common pick throughout the tour, especially in the latter part. And the purple team, they're clearly talking amongst themselves because they're doing a lot of the same things. They're making the double bulky water pick in one go. The whole purple team really likes Entei, apparently. Gardevoir seems to be a popular poke on the purple team. They're clearly communicating amongst themselves. They're clearly having some kind of chat and some kind of consensus, and they seem to like a lot of the same pokes. So, fair enough. This double water pick, I mean, this isn't really like something the purple team invented. This is just really good. But it has very much picked up steam in the latter part of the tournament. Earlier on, people still knew that these pokes were good, but they were making picks, oh, Milotic plus Aerodactyl, Swampert plus Zapdos, whatever. But it's now become way, way more common to take these guys together. And you can't go too far wrong, especially with T-Tar Arrow on the other side. You are going to need all the damn bulky waters and rock resist that you can get. So these picks would make sense anyway, and they make even more sense given where we are in the draft. These responses I deem appropriate. Zapdos and Starmie respectively. The Zapdos is obviously going to be good against the waters, though notably it is not good against the Celebi or the Lax. And the Starmie, largely the same deal. Good against the waters, not as good as Zapdos is, not so good against the Lax and the Celebi, but arguably, unless you put Regice higher, which I think is a valid argument, arguably the best Pokemon remaining. I could see going any combo of Zapdos, Starmie, and Regice here. That being said, by not taking Regice, I think it will almost certainly get gobbled up on the other side, but that I don't think is as big of a deal because you've got both T-Tar and Aerodactyl, and Regice is obviously a bit more vulnerable than it otherwise would be because you have those Pokemon. Nevertheless, unsurprisingly, he does take Regice here, and additionally, he's going to take Salamence, which is arguably the best Pokemon remaining, certainly one of them. So this is a very strong Player 2 opening round in which it's designed for Player 1 to have the advantage, at least at the end of round 1. Player 2 is supposed to have the advantage in round 2, understandably, but this looks relatively even right now. Obviously, Dancing Along has 2 more picks, but a very, very strong, solid round 1 from the Player 2 seat from Rager88. Dancing Along is going to wrap up this round with Fori, first Spiker taken, given that Skarm was banned out, and Hariyama, which I think is wise because he's the T-Tar Blissey drafter, so it's decent against him, though he does have fighting resists, of course, in Zapdos and Starmie, and it's good against the Lax, the Regice, and to a lesser extent, the Bulky Waters on the other side. Fighters I definitely expect to be contested, and I would think things like Heracross, Medicham, whoever you like the best, maybe even Breloom and Machamp, but I think fighters are definitely going to be a big part of this draft and are going to be contested. I expect them to be either banned or picked very early in the upcoming second round. So as we move over to said bans, it's going to be Rager88 banning first, and he's going to remove Gyarados, a Pokemon that I have continuously advocated as being very, very good. It's interesting that he does not want Intimidate against the T-Tar, the Arrow, the Hariyama. Now, obviously, for the Rock Pokemon, it is weak to Rock, so maybe it isn't great in that regard, but I still think you want as many Intimidates as you can get. I probably would have let the Raikou not be banned, and by Raikou, I mean Gyarados, sorry. He did ban Raikou. I probably would have let the Gyarados not be banned and then try to take that at the beginning of round 2. He must have some specific picks in mind, which is fine, but I can't imagine. I can think of one poke maybe, but I don't think I can think of 2 pokes that I like here better than Gyarados, so I probably would have let that through and tried to take it, but he sees it differently. Dancing Along is going to remove Registeel. Certainly a good one. Not sure. I don't know. The weird thing about that ban, and granted it would be another fighting weakness, but the weird thing about that ban is that his opponent is pretty much all set on special walls. The Celebi, the Lax, the Regice. It's actually him himself who needs the special walls more, in my opinion. So, strange to me that he's banning out something that I think he needs more than his opponent needs it. I could see wanting to ban that out as the T-Tar Aerodactyl drafter because it is good against those. So it's definitely possible that he was banning that, simply thinking that if he doesn't, Rager88 might just take it at the top of the round. And honestly, I don't think that's unreasonable. I think it is very possible that he may have taken it at the top of the round. So if that's your fear, and I think it is a warranted fear, I deem that a reasonable and well thought out ban. On the flip side for Rager, he's going to get rid of Blaziken. I don't know that it is particularly exciting against, either draft, but for Rager, it's a mixed bag here. It threatens half of his things, the Celebi, the Lax, the Regice, but it very much doesn't threaten the other half, the Milo, Swampert, the Salamence. It's not amazing against him, but the trend of flail and reversal and just speed boosting items and or moves dominating this format just has not changed, and I guess it comes with the territory when it is the first season of this in a relatively new format and a lot of newer, lesser experienced players. People just aren't preparing adequately enough for those strategies, and we have seen way too many sweeps. So Blaziken's certainly one of the more capable Pokemon that can do that. I can understand, even if I don't think it's amazing against his specific draft, I can understand why he wouldn't want to play against that Pokemon. It is very scary to face. And then finally, Dancing Along is going to cut off Claydol. We've seen people do this a few times where they have two of the good spinners in Starmie and Fori, and they're going to cut off the third good spinner. Obviously, there's other rapid spinners still in play. Cloyster, Donphan, Blastoise, kind of sort of Armaldo. There's definitely still playable spinners left, so I don't necessarily love banning Doll in that regard, but it is also helping him out defensively in that it is obviously a rock resist against T-Tar and Arrow, shuts off the Zapdos a little bit. I can see why he wouldn't want to play against Doll. Doll, in general, does not amaze me. I think Spikers are overrated in this. I think Spinners are overrated in this. And I think Doll often is just a bit too do-nothing for my personal taste. It's not a bad mom, but I don't think it's that great either. But I think there's just enough with the combination of reasons. Little things, but I think there's just enough to maybe justify that ban. So we move over to Rager with the double pick, and unsurprisingly, he immediately is interested in a fighter. We had that discussion a couple weeks ago. He likes Heracross more than Medicham. I don't personally share that opinion, but regardless, taking a fighter here, whether it's Heracross or Medicham, I think is a wise move. And like I said, I think fighters are going to be contested. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dancing Along take Medicham here. I think that fighters have obvious merit against both teams. Additionally, going to take Regirock here. Sensible against the T-Tar Aerodactyl Zapdos drafter. That, to me, the fact that he's willing to take Regirock there, means that it probably was a good ban to get rid of the Registeel, because that very well may have gotten gobbled up in the exact same way had Rager been given the opportunity to take it. On the flip side, like I said, Medicham taken here. Not surprised. Like I said, I think that Breloom and Machamp are both very possible in this draft. Keep your eyes peeled. And there is Jolteon as well. Little double electric action. I don't mind the Jolteon here. I wouldn't go too much further down this rabbit hole, but I could see Jolteon having some merit here. Just a poke that's generally good and that I generally like. Certainly the faster team by a good margin with the Aerodactyl, the Jolteon, the Starmie, the Zapdos. Certainly the faster team belongs to Dancing Along right now. Not that I think speed is the be-all, end-all in this format, but it helps. Coming back to Rager. Love these picks. Weezing, criminally underrated poke that I think is really, really good and really, really important. Here's the thing with Weezing, and I can't overstate this enough. I really can't. With just about anything else, this is something that only Weezing does. With just about anything else, there are at least one or two others in the roll. Like, good bulky waters are scarce, but there's more than one. There's like 2, 3, 4 of them. Good special walls are scarce, but again, there's like 2, 3, 4 of them, and then there's a couple of lesser ones down the line. Good rock resists, same deal. Good physical attackers, good fighters, good electrics, same deal for all of them. But there is nothing that replaces Weezing's role. There is only one Pokemon, Weezing itself, that does what it does. And once you have it, your opponent cannot. And I think it's really, really valuable because it does something that no other Pokemon do, and it hard counters so many things. Flygon, Regirock, Fighters, Snorlax. I am a huge Weezing fan, and it's just rocketing up my tier list in this format. I think it should at least be worthy of discussion. Is Weezing a round 1 pick? Honestly, truly. Because not only is it really good, and it just totally blanks so many things, but it's not replaceable. If you don't get my Milotic and Swampert, that stinks. You can still get Vaporeon and Slowbro. And the same can be said about anything else. If you don't get Bliss and Lax, that blows, but like, okay, get Umbreon, get Articuno, you'll figure out your special walls. But Weezing is irreplaceable. And I really, really think we should start having the discussion, is Weezing worth a round 1 pick? Because I think it very well may be. And likewise, you guys know how much I love Dragonite. I really, really do. So, I adore these picks from Rager. Let us carry on. Going to be Moltres and Cloyster here. So, pretty clear dominance in the Spiker Spinner department. Both Spiker Spinner all-in-ones for Dancing Along. He's also going to have Starmie, so he's got 2 Spikers, 3 Spinners against an opponent who has none of either. And that has been a common thing recently, where one person goes down the Spiker Spinner path, and the other person doesn't even bother trying to fight back. They just say, fuck it, you got it, I'm going to try to beat you with other things, and they just ignore it. Now, granted, sometimes they can and do, and maybe Rager will just pick up late round 3, just grab Donphan, grab Blastoise, whatever, because there's no reason not to. But they don't try to respond early on to the spikes. And really, I mean, there's not a lot of Pokemon that are remaining that are worthy of a mid to late round 2 pick. You could still take the Donphans and the Blastoises, but right now on sheer power level, there's got to be something better you can take. So usually, picking up that kind of thing gets put off until later. But yeah, Cloyster pick seems totally fine. Spike's obviously one of the big advantages that Dancing Along has right now, alongside his double rock attacking duo. And then the Moltres, hit or miss, bad against, the waters, obviously. Depends on the Lax set, but most Laxes are going to have either Rest or Refresh. Regirock, mixed bag. It doesn't want to get hit with Will-O-Wisp, but you obviously die 1,000,000 times over to the Rock Slide. Moltres is fine here. Neither blows me away nor makes my stomach turn. It's a acceptable pick, in my opinion. However, in doing that, he's going to allow this from Rager, which I'm not that excited about. Not the Sceptile, per se, though this is a good pick as well. But he's going to cut him off of the Vaporeon, so that might be a missed opportunity, I think, for Dancing Along. I value Bulky Waters very, very highly, and seemingly so do the other top players in this, with Zakaru feeling the same way, with Mongoose feeling the same way. They really understand how highly Bulky Waters need to be prioritized and valued. So maybe there's an argument to be made that Dancing Along should not have taken Moltres here and should have grabbed the Vaporeon. That's very possible, because allowing Rager to choke out the Vaporeon here is going to leave Dancing Along in an awkward spot. I mean, there may or may not be a Slowbro in his future. I think there probably should be a Slowbro in his future, but that's only one Mon, and I'm not clear at this point what his plan would be as far as a Bulky Water on the other teams. He might have to go without, and that's not a place that I love to be. So I didn't hate the Moltres pick at the time. Looking back, it probably should have been Vaporeon, and I think it was wise for Rager to capitalize on that and cut him off of that poke. I think it's going to make his bulky water, and therefore just his defensive core, physically defensive core as a whole, significantly worse because the options are way limited and way worse now for Dancing Along. As far as the Sceptile, I can see quite a few grass weaknesses, and I see a Blissey on the other side. No objection to that Pokemon whatsoever. I'm a Sceptile fan in draft. So, back over to Dancing Along to conclude his end of this round. Dominating Spiker Spinners. He's got 3 of each. Gonna be pretty hard for Rager to go down that rabbit hole. I think what Rager should do, like I said, is just pick up down the road late Donphan, late Blastoise, call it good. Wouldn't bother picking up Spikers. I don't think the Quillfishes, the Roselias, the Cacturns, I don't think that stuff is all that exciting. Playable, certainly, but not the kind of Mon that I would be thrilled to have on my team. I think that at this point, he should just pick up a playable spinner or two and call it good enough. In addition to the Glalie, we've got Alakazam. Probably late round 2 is roughly where I see Alakazam falling. I've seen other people take it earlier than that. I don't always love that. There are some special walls on the other side, but there's also plenty of scenarios where the Alakazam could be dangerous. Good poke as a whole, not a fantastic poke. End of round 2, probably about the right time. No objection to that pick. I'm glad to see this as well for Rager. I think this makes a lot of sense. And I think Rager is having the better draft, in my opinion. He's going to go Donphan Miltank here. I think the Donphan pick is really, really important, more so than Blastoise or any other spinner would be. The fact that it spins is fantastic, and that certainly is part of the reason to take it. But Donphan just as a wall is very, very good against Tyranitar and Aerodactyl. Obviously, T-Tar can be something other than just physical. If you have Ice Beam or Crunch or whatever, it makes the Donphan worse. But Donphan is a good generalized wall against Tar, and it is certainly a good wall against Aerodactyl. It can tank anything and then retaliate with Counter or Roar or whatever the case may be. And yeah, that plus the fact that it spins, I think Donphan is wise, and I think Dancing Along probably should have banned that in the next round of bans if it had gone through. Would he have? We don't know. But wise to grab it there for Rager because it very well might have gotten taken away from him. And I think Dancing Along is not drafting badly by any means. I think Rager's having the better draft, but I don't think Dancing Along is at all drafting poorly. However, I think the little minor mistakes that Dancing Along is making, I think Rager is doing a really good job at capitalizing on them. Those last 2 little examples, the Vaporeon that I don't think he should have had access to, and the Donphan that arguably Dancing Along should have cut off as well. For example, had he gone Vaporeon over Moltres and had he gone Donphan over Alakazam, I think this draft looks very different right now. But Dancing Along is not cutting his opponent off of some crucial pieces, and I think that the Vaporeon there is going to make life difficult for Dancing Along because now his bulky water options blow, and I think the Donphan is something he didn't need to let his opponent have. That is a much-needed spinner and wall that just made life quite a bit better and easier for Rager. So we go over to the 3rd and final round of bans, and we get Steelix being removed for Dancing Along. He's the Aero Double Electric drafter. Enough said. Dusclops now from Rager88. He does not want it, so all those spikes can be protected. That to me indicates that he's planning on picking up at least one more spinner somewhere. Otherwise, what's the point of banning Dusclops? The only reason to take Dusclops is to protect Rapid Spin, protect spikes from Rapid Spin rather, and that really isn't worth it if your opponent only has one Rapid Spinner. So Rager making that ban to me indicates that he's going to pick up or try to pick up another spinner, and I wonder if Dancing Along is going to take advantage of that and either pick or ban Blastoise here. I think you should actually consider picking Blastoise because even though it would be acceptable to ban it, I think he needs a bulky water. So, honestly, Slowbro Blastoise, probably the double pick for Dancing Along at this point. He needs the waters, and he needs to cut off that spinner from Rager. He's going to ban Flygon. That's wise. Like I said, at the very beginning of this, when you have the T-Tar Arrow start, it just devolves into fighting over and banning every rock resist imaginable. So he has spent his last 4 bans all on rock resists. Registeel, Claydol, Steelix, Flygon, all of them gone. And it's not a coincidence. He's doing that very specifically because he has T-Tar and Arrow, and that is all the more reason for that minor mistake. That is all the more reason that this Alakazam pick should have been Donphan. I think that one minor thing, very easy to do, very easy mistake to make. I think it's going to be costly. I really do. I like Dancing Along's position so much better if Rager has 1 fewer rock resist and 1 fewer spinner right now. So, Rager, going to remove Misdreavus. If it weren't already apparent, clearly thinking about picking up a Rapid Spinner as he bans these 2 ghosts. And I think it is mission critical. I think it is so important and so mandatory that Dancing Along takes Blastoise here. And indeed he does. And I think it would be a massive mistake and massive egregious punt to not take Blastoise here. He takes the 2 exact picks that I think he has to make here. Slowbro and Blastoise is exactly what he needs to do. I think at least the Blastoise, maybe both of them, honestly, would have been cut off very soon by Rager if he doesn't make those picks. Very, very important, especially the Blastoise. He's got 2 bulky waters now, 2.5 if you want to count Starmie, which is way better than 0 from a moment ago. And he's also cutting off what is almost certainly the best Rapid Spinner still in the pool by taking the Blastoise. So Rager, who is clearly indicating that he wants a spinner by banning out these 2 ghosts, the options just got a lot worse. So I don't know if he's got Armaldo or Tentacruel or something on the brain now, but the options are much worse than they were just a moment ago. Going over to Rager, he does not immediately take a spinner, and I'm not surprised because what spinner do you want here that you couldn't push off till later? What spinner do you want here that excites you? He instead is going to go for Ludicolo and Umbreon, which I have no objection to. Certainly starting to take Leech Seeders, not a coincidence that he took Celebi here, and Sceptile and Ludicolo. He is trying to cut off Leech Seeders to protect his Lax. Also with Blissey on the other side, you want to Leech Seed that as well. Umbreon is a poke that I generally like. Round 3, a fine time for that Mon. Good little Wish supporter, special wall. Takes pretty much every special hit reasonably well as long as they don't have CM boosts. Yeah, I'm down with the Umbreon. Dancing Along, picking up 2 of the better performing offensive threats here. Jinx and Tauros, good on the sheet. Mons that we have seen get good value and can be slapped on most teams and do good things. Can't go too far wrong with those. I'm a fan of both. Alrighty, here's our answer. Here is the Rapid Spinner for Rager. Not that the choices are great at this point, but among those choices, he's going to opt for Armaldo. And additionally, he's going to take Arcanine. Armaldo is one of the spinners that a lot of the time doesn't actually run spin. It's unlike something like Fori or Donphan that almost always carries it, but Armaldo has other viable sets. You could be Swords Dance and attacks. You can have knockoff. But yeah, I mean, he very well may have Rapid Spin here. Hell, he could even be Swords Dance 2 attacks plus Rapid Spin or something to that effect. But with 3 Spikers on the other side, my Armaldo would be carrying Rapid Spin, especially because you spent 2 of your bans on Ghosts. If you're going down that rabbit hole, you might as well bring the damn Rapid Spinner. As far as the Arcanine, man, Dancing Along is actually about as padded against fire types as it gets. I actually don't see that many weaknesses at all. There's Fori, Glalie, Jinx. Is that literally it? Looking one more time. Wow, that's literally it. Fori, Glalie, Jinx is it for fire weaknesses. Hell of a lot of resistances, though. T-Tar, Aerodactyl, Blissey as far as I'm concerned. Starmie, Hariyama, Moltres, Slowbro, Blastoise. I love me some Arcanine, but Man, Fire does not seem like the desirable attacking type given what Dancing Along has. I wonder, I mean, I see way more fighting weaknesses over there. I wonder why he's not considering Breloom or Machamp or something to that effect. I do like Intimidate, always, but I don't know. As much as I love Arcanine, I think it's a solid Mon without a doubt. I don't think it's all that great into the lineup on the other side. There are more than double the number of resistances than weaknesses, so that would make me a little bit nervous, but we'll see what he can do with it. Back to Dancing Along. His picks are going to be Articuno and Venusaur. I approve of these picks. Solid role players. The Articuno is another special wall, which I think he needs because I think he didn't have 3. Arguably still doesn't have 3. It's basically just Blissey, but he's going to pick up on the Articuno. Another reason it was wise to take the Umbreon from Rager because he was cutting his opponent off of something that he needed. And then Venusaur, yeah, I mean, you want Leech Seeders against the Lax like we discussed before. And grasses are obviously good against the waters here as well. He's got triple bulky water. So Venusaur, definitely a good pick. I probably would have liked to have seen him take double grass, but that ship has kind of sailed. I don't know what your other grass would be at this point. The good ones, the Sceptile, the Ludicolo, already taken on the other side. So Venusaur, a good step in the right direction, but I don't think he's necessarily... Maybe Breloom, but I don't think he really has too many opportunities for more good Leech Seeders. Like I said, Breloom, the only one that comes to mind is something I would be fine playing. I think after that, if you're looking at Executor, things along those lines, that's probably too much of a stretch for me, but we'll see how he proceeds. Going to be Charizard and Scizor now for Rager. And again, I wonder with the Charizard, I mean, it's not as narrow as Arcanine. Charizard at least can learn Earthquake or Focus Punch, moves that the Arcanine can't learn. So that opens up a little bit for the Zard, but my overall sentiment is the same. Now, granted, Fire did just get better a moment ago because Dancing Along did just pick up 2 more Fire weaknesses, so I guess that makes it a little bit better. And there's also the argument that Charizard just shouldn't still be here this late, end of round 3. That's fair. It's stronger than a lot of the stuff that's been picked on both sides before it. So as far as just value, as far as just bang for your buck, taking the strongest mon still available, it probably is Charizard. So I'm okay with that. I can accept that. Sorry, I didn't talk about the Scizor. Yeah, I could see enough weaknesses to probably justify that. Let's see, we can hit Titar, Starmie, Glalie, Slowbro, Jinx, Articuno. Yeah, decent amount of things over there that it can hit super effectively. And again, because Dancing Along is not full enough, I guess, for lack of a better term, on bulky waters. He does have 2 now, but one of them is vulnerable to Scizor. I think that makes the Scizor better than it needs to be. And likewise, for Intimidate, well, Mence and Arcanine ended up on the right. Gyarados got banned, so his Intimidator is going to be Tauros, which doesn't really count because it's not going to have lefties and not going to be a good wall for a Scizor. So, yeah, I think the Scizor is probably a little bit more difficult for Dancing Along than it needs to be. So, wrapping up the draft for Dancing Along, his picks are Sableye, since we're going down the Ghost depth chart, and Machamp, which is unsurprising. Like I said, I think the fighters are going to be important, and most or all of the good ones are going to get picked in this draft. So, Sableye, just a Ghost, try to protect from spin. Dusclops and Missy got banned out, so this is going to be your best bet. And Sableye does have some play 1v1 against Snorlax. Not incredible, but it can resist most of its attacks. And you can, of course, recover off damage. And you can threaten with knockoff. So you could do worse. Sableye, if you're going to take it, is an end of round 3 mon, which is exactly where it's getting picked. But it's totally playable. I don't have an objection to Sableye. And then Machamp, we already talked about fighters, but we could do a quick review since things have changed a little bit since then. So, what has happened since round 1 when we were talking about fighters? He's picked up 1, 2, 3 more fighting weaknesses. However, 1, 2, and 3 more fighting resists. Fair enough. So I guess they are about the same as where they were before. Machamp, I think, is a totally fine and playable Mon. Is it better than Breloom in this spot when they were both available? Maybe that's my hesitation. I could see why, with a guy who just took multiple Fire Mons, why maybe you'd be a little bit turned off from Breloom. I don't dislike Machamp over it, but Spore is broken, and you obviously want Leech Seed against Lax, but not like Machamp is bad against Lax. It's obviously pretty good there as well, so yeah, no problem with the Machamp last pick. And ironically, Rager is actually going to be the one with his last pick to take Breloom. Fair enough. Let's go ahead and check on the fighters on the other side post round 1. We've added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or I guess Jinx doesn't count. So 4, 5, 6. 6 fighting weaknesses, or resistances rather. 6 resistances. And he added for weaknesses 1, 2. Just 2? Ugh. Okay. Well, maybe the Breloom isn't that great then, because a lot of resistances got added for Dancing Along, and not that many weaknesses got added. So maybe fighters are worse against Dancing Along than they looked earlier on like they might be. That being said, yes, still have Spore, and that move is busted. So that's our draft. A close one to be sure. And very different approaches here. Very clear strengths and weaknesses for both players. This would be the best time. This is your cue to go down into that comment section and let me know who you think won the draft. I'd always love to hear from you guys. And while you're there, feel free to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button and all that good stuff. So, what do I think? Who won this draft? Like I said, it's really polarized. Pretty obvious strengths and weaknesses for both players. I mean, on one hand, you've got the guy with the T-Tar Arrow combo, which is always deadly. And let's go ahead and do a final rock resist count on the other side. We've got Swampert. Regirock I'll count as half. Weezing I'll count as half. Donphan. And yeah, I mean, Breloom I'll count as half, I guess. It barely counts. So 3.5 is the total count, and only 2 of them are real, proper, in the literal sense, rock resists, Swampert and Donphan. So I think that Dancing Along did do a good job after taking the T-Tar Arrow of denying the rock resist. Like I said, he spent 4 bans in a row, Registeel, Claydol, Steelix, Flygon, all of which are on rock resists. I do think he really, really made a mistake with the Donphan. I really think if this Alakazam had instead been Donphan, that would be a whole new world, because he would be exasperating his 2 biggest strengths that he already has, which is a dominant Spiker Spinner advantage, and in fact, Rager never did take a Spiker, and his double rock attacker. Taking the Donphan there would have helped with both. So I think that was a minor mistake, but an easy mistake to make. I mean, minor at the time, but honestly, I think it might have major consequences. So I'm going to call that an at least medium, maybe even a big mistake. An easy to make mistake, but a mistake with big consequences. But the clear advantages, like I said, for Dancing Along, the double rock attacker with only a handful of rock resists on the other side, and then the Spiker Spinner dominance. Now, obviously, the spin part does not matter because Rager never did take a Spiker, but Dancing Along has 3 Spikers and 1 Ghost to try to protect them against a team that has at most 2 Spinners, and that's if he uses Armaldo in that way. And also, it's really not a big deal that he's got Spinners like Starmie, Fori, Cloyster that aren't going to spin. They have plenty of other good things they could do with their move slot when they don't have to carry Rapid Spin. That's the big strength for Dancing Along. The big strength for Rager, obviously the bulky water advantage. Now, Dancing Along did catch up a little bit in that regard, taking the Slowbro and the Blastoise, but he's got 2 or 2.5 bulky waters versus a full proper 3 and a better 3 on the other side. I would also say that Rager88 is more padded in the special department. He's got Lax, Regice, Celebi, Umbreon, Ludicolo, He's got multiple either proper special walls or like half special walls that are going to leave it to where all three of his teams have a very viable answer to special threats. And again, not that Dancing Along has nothing in that regard. He's got at least Blissey after all, and Articuno, which I think was a good pick. But I do think that Rager is a bit better equipped to deal with special threats. Another advantage that Rager has is the Wheezing. Like I said, a Pokemon that there is no role replacement, so whoever gets it has a bit of an advantage in that regard. And then also, Rager has more Intimidates. He's got the Mence and the Arcanine, and those things can actually play defense with the Intimidates and have some bulk, whereas the Tauros is almost certainly not going to have leftovers. Intimidate is still Intimidate, but it's way worse at doing it, doesn't switch into things as well, doesn't have resistances, isn't going to have lefties, so not nearly as good at using Intimidate. And then as far as Junk Mons, these guys actually both pretty much pass the test. There's not anything in this draft, unlike some of the weird shit that I've seen elsewhere, where I just really, really don't want to play it. I'm already mentally in my mind, nope, that guy's off the team. I think they both have a pool of 21 Mons that are totally playable without it being cringe or without it being forced. I think that diversity of builder, very much a thing for both of them, and they can take it wherever they want to take it. There's going to be a lot of choices and a lot of considerations. So putting it off, man. Trying to stall for time because the big question, who won this draft? I really don't know. I can absolutely see arguments either way. I really can. I mean, you've got a guy who's going to be laying spikes and coming at you with T-Tar and Arrow that is very fair. On the other hand, you've got a guy who's got much sturdier defensive cores, both specially and physically, between the more special walls and the better and more bulky waters. Being sturdy is really good. And yeah, I don't really think either one has a blatant advantage as a player. These guys are both good. So I really don't know. I don't know where that leaves you. I mean, I guess a slight advantage maybe for Dancing Along as a player, but I think I slightly favor Rager88's draft. So I really, really don't know on this one. Man. All right, I don't feel great about this prediction. Some of these are a lot more straightforward to me than others, but I'm going to go ahead and with great hesitation, I'm going to predict Dancing Along, who I think is maybe a slightly better player. I'm going to predict Dancing Along to get the W here because I really believe in him as a player, as a pilot, but oh man, wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if it goes the other way. I think Rager88 probably had the better draft, to be honest with you, but it just comes down to little things. Like if Dancing Along had taken Vaporeon over Moltres, and certainly if he had taken Donphan over Alakazam, then this would be much, much less close for me, and I would definitely say Dancing Along. As it is, I now give a minor advantage to Dancing Along, and that's with me factoring in my opinion of him as a player. Rager very well may have had the better draft. This is going to be yet another close one that I can't wait to see the result of. So that's it. Past midnight for me. Going to wind down for the night, work in the morning, all that good stuff. But feel free to let me know, as always, in the comments what you think, who you think won the draft. And I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.